Before there were laws, before there were nations, even before there was written history, survival wasn't just about being the strongest. It was about something far more difficult. Picture this. Early humans, living in a world where every single resource was scarce, and every mistake could be your last. Hunger, fear, and constant danger were the forces that shaped every single decision. In a world like that, keeping everything for yourself seems like the only logical choice. Right. Sharing meant taking a huge risk. Giving away something valuable, like food or a warm place to sleep, could literally mean the difference between life and death. It goes against every survival instinct we have. And yet, at some point, deep in our shared human past, someone made a choice to do the exact opposite. Someone decided to defy that instinct. A decision was made to give up food, to risk their own safety, or to sacrifice their comfort not for their own survival, but for someone else. Of course, no one wrote it down. There were no statues built, no songs sung to celebrate it. But that single, unrecorded act quietly changed the entire course of human history. This was the moment sacrifice entered our story. It wasn't a rule handed down by a leader or a command from a god. It was a choice, born from a complex mix of necessity and a simple, powerful connection to another person. That one act, and the ones that followed, began a profound transformation. It turned small, scattered groups of individuals into cooperating communities. It turned strangers into something resembling family. It built trust in a world that had, until then, been ruled by fear. This single idea that we could give something up for the good of others became the invisible thread that started weaving us together. In this video, we're going to explore that first sacrifice. We'll dive into the why, what could possibly motivate someone to make such a counterintuitive choice. We'll look at what it truly cost them, and most importantly, we'll uncover how this fundamental act became the bedrock of cooperation, the origin of true leadership, and ultimately, the very foundation of civilization itself. It's a powerful idea to consider. Without that first act of giving, humanity as we know it might never have survived its earliest, most challenging days. The story of sacrifice is, in many ways, the story of us. It's the story of how we learn to be human together. So, let us dig into the past and uncover the origins of one of the most powerful forces that has ever shaped our world. The first topic is a world that rewarded selfishness. For millions of years, the world didn't reward kindness. It rewarded speed, strength, and selfishness. Imagine a world where food is scarce and danger lurks around every corner. Survival isn't about teamwork. It's about grabbing what you need before someone or something else gets to it first. In this brutal reality, selfishness wasn't a sin. It was just logical. It was the only way to stay alive. Think about it from the perspective of our earliest ancestors. They lived in small, fragile groups. Every piece of food, every drop of water was precious. If supplies ran low, keeping more for yourself wasn't greedy. It was a strategy to increase your odds of seeing another day. Sharing meant less for you. And in a world of constant scarcity, less could mean the difference between life and death. Protecting others, that meant putting yourself in harm's way, risking injury or worse. The instinct to prioritize yourself wasn't a choice. It was a survival mechanism honed over countless generations. For millions of years, that instinct worked. Nature itself was the ultimate teacher of this harsh lesson. Watch any nature documentary, and you'll see it. Animals fighting over territory, predators singling out the weakest prey. There were no safety nets, no emergency services, no guarantees that tomorrow would even come. An injury wasn't just painful. It was often a death sentence. In that kind of environment, acts of generosity would seem utterly foolish, even dangerous. Trust was a luxury few could afford, and strangers were almost always seen as threats, even within their own small groups. Cooperation was transactional. It happened only when it directly served an individual's self. If someone could take something without facing any consequences, they often did. This wasn't born from cruelty or malice. It was the cold, hard logic of survival. You had to look out for number one because no one else was going to do it for you. This was the world before the revolutionary idea of sacrifice truly took hold in human behavior. Many early human species lived and died by this rule, and many of them simply disappeared from the face of the earth. Groups that couldn't manage their limited resources would inevitably collapse. Internal conflicts, driven by self-interest, would tear them apart from the inside, leaving them vulnerable. When a real crisis hit a famine, a harsh winter, a new predator, there was no social glue holding them together. There was no compelling reason to protect anyone but yourself. This was a lonely, brutal reality, a world where taking made sense, giving felt like a mistake, and survival was a solitary battle, fought against nature and everyone else. But then, something extraordinary happened. Somewhere along the way, a new idea began to emerge. An idea that would completely change the course of human history. This idea was sacrifice. Not the dramatic, life or death kind you see in movies, but the small, everyday acts of giving. Sharing a little bit of your food, even when you were hungry. Standing guard for your group, even when you were tired. Tending to someone who was sick, even when it put you at risk. At first, this behavior must have seemed insane. It went against every instinct for why would anyone willingly give up their own resources or expose themselves to danger for someone else? The old logic said it was a losing game. But what our ancestors slowly discovered was that this new logic of sacrifice held a hidden power. A group where individuals were willing to make small sacrifices for each other was stronger than a group of selfish individuals. When one hunter shared his catch, it meant that the whole group had a better chance of eating that day. When someone stood watch at night, everyone could sleep a little more safely. When the sick were cared for, instead of being abandoned, they could recover and contribute to the group again. These small acts of giving created a network of trust and mutual support. This wasn't about pure altruism. It was a revolutionary, new survival strategy. A group that worked together could hunt larger animals, defend against bigger threats, and survive harsher conditions. Suddenly, cooperation wasn't just about immediate personal gain. It was an investment in the future of the entire group and, by extension, your own future. This shift was monumental. It was the birth of community. Sacrifice transformed a collection of competing individuals into a cohesive unit. This new social technology was more powerful than any sharp stone or strong muscle. It allowed our ancestors, Homo sapiens, to outcompete other human species who were still playing the old, selfish game. While they were fighting amongst themselves, we were building something bigger. We were learning that our greatest strength wasn't in our individual power, but in our ability to connect, to care, and to sacrifice for one another. This idea of sacrifice became the bedrock of human civilization. It's the reason we build cities, create laws, and care for the elderly and the vulnerable. Think about the world we live in today. Every functioning society is built on countless acts of sacrifice, both big and small. The taxes we pay fund public services that benefit everyone. The soldiers who defend their country are making an ultimate sacrifice. The parents who work tirelessly to provide for their children are sacrificing their time and energy. Doctors, nurses, firefighters, their professions are defined by a willingness to put the needs of others before their own. Even in our daily lives, sacrifice is everywhere. We hold a door open for a stranger. We let someone go ahead of us in line. We donate to charity. We volunteer our time. These might seem like tiny, insignificant actions, but they are all echoes of that ancient, revolutionary idea. They are the threads that weave our social fabric together, reinforcing the trust and cooperation that allow our complex societies to function. Without this willingness to give, to share, and to contribute to the greater good, our world would quickly unravel and revert back to that brutal, solitary existence of our distant ancestors. But here's a crucial point. True sacrifice isn't about it's not about giving until you have nothing left. The most effective, sustainable form of sacrifice is balanced. It's a strategic investment in the collective, which in turn benefits the individual. A healthy community supports its members, and supported members are better able to contribute back to the community. It's a positive feedback loop. The hunter who shares his meat today knows that when he has an unlucky hunt tomorrow, someone else will share with him. This system of reciprocal altruism is what allowed human groups to not just survive, but to thrive and expand across the entire planet. The story of humanity is the story of discovering this incredible power. It tests the journey from a world that rewarded pure selfishness to a world built on the foundation of mutual support and sacrifice. We learned that by giving a little, we could all gain a lot more. We traded the lonely security of self-interest for the immense power of collective action. And that trade, that leap of faith, is what made us human. It asked the secret ingredient that took us from fragile bands of hunter-gatherers to a global civilization of billions. It is a lesson that is just as relevant today as it was 100,000 years ago. In a world that often feels divided, it is worth remembering that our greatest achievements have always come not when we look out only for ourselves, but when we are willing to sacrifice for each other. The second topic is the moment someone gave something up. Have you ever wondered about the first time a human gave something up? Not for themselves, but for someone else? It's a moment that fundamentally changed who we are. Let's travel back in time to a world where every decision was a matter of life or death. The very first sacrifice wasn't a grand, noble gesture. It didn't happen because humans suddenly developed a complex moral code. No, it was born from something far more primal, the desperate need to survive. Imagine a small group of early humans. They're facing a harsh world. Food is scarce, predators are a constant threat. An illness can wipe out a family in days. In this brutal reality, instinct is king. Hunger screams at you to eat every last scrap. Fear tells you to run at the first sign of danger. Self-preservation is the only rule that matters. But then, one day, something different happens. Someone, somewhere, makes a choice that goes against every single one of those instincts. Picture this scene: a harsh winter, and the group has managed to find a small amount of food, barely enough for one person. A hunter, strong but starving, holds it in his hand. His body is screaming at him to eat, to refuel, to survive. But then he looks over at a child, shivering and weak, or an elder who holds the group's collective memory. In that split second, a battle rages within him, the instinct to live versus something new, something different. He pauses. Instead of eating, he extends his hand and gives the food to the weaker member of the group. Or maybe the scene is different. A predator attacks the camp. The instinct for everyone is to scatter, to run, to save themselves. But one person doesn't run. They stand their ground, creating a diversion, drawing the danger towards them so the others, the mothers and children, can escape to safety. They are trading their own safety for the group's survival. Think about the sheer force of will this would have taken, to deliberately ignore the powerful, hardwired commands of your own brain telling you to save yourself. It's an act that, on the surface, seems completely illogical. Why would you give up your food, your safety, your life, for someone else? The answer lies not in the act itself, but in what happened next. The child who received the food didn't die. They grew up, learned, and eventually contributed to the group, perhaps becoming a skilled hunter or a wise leader. The family that escaped the predator survived to have more children, strengthening the group's numbers. The person who stayed behind to care for a sick relative ensured that individual's knowledge and skills were lost forever. The sacrifice, while costly for one person in the short term, paid off for everyone in the long term. It dramatically increased the group's chances of survival. And crucially, others were watching. They saw this act. They saw someone prioritize the group over themselves. This observation was revolutionary. It planted a seed. That seed was trust. When you see someone sacrifice for you, you learn that you can depend on them. You know they have your back. This trust creates a powerful bond, something far stronger than a simple alliance of convenience. It creates loyalty, and loyalty is the glue that holds a society together. Suddenly, the group was no longer just a collection of individuals competing for resources. It was a team, a unit. They were stronger together than they ever were apart. Slowly, over thousands of years, what began as a rare, counterintuitive act started to become a strategy. Groups that practiced sacrifice, the ones that shared resources and protected each other, simply did better. They outcompeted the groups that were purely selfish. They survived famines, fought off enemies, and raised more children to adulthood. Sacrifice evolved from being a costly exception to a powerful, strategic investment. It was an investment in the group's future. By giving up something small today, a piece of food, a beat of time, a moment of comfort, you were ensuring the group's existence tomorrow. And if the group survived, you survived. This shift in thinking reshaped human relationships from the ground up. Survival was no longer just an individual sport. It became a team game. We learned that our own well-being was intrinsically linked to the well-being of those around us. My survival depends on you, and your survival depends on me. This idea is the foundation of everything we consider human: community, family, friendship, love. It's the reason we run into burning buildings to save strangers. The reason parents sacrifice for their children. The reason we build societies that care for the sick and elderly. It all started with that one moment. That one person who, against all instinct, chose to give. They didn't know they were changing the course of history. They were just trying to help their group survive another day. But in doing so, they unlocked the most powerful survival tool humanity has ever discovered: each other. That simple act of giving taught us that we are stronger together. And once we learned that lesson, there was no going back. We became social creatures, not just by nature, but by choice. The choice to sacrifice, to trust, and to build a future together. It's the choice that, ultimately, made USA human. The third topic is why sacrifice meant survival. Have you ever wondered why humans help each other, even when it costs them something? It's easy to think of sacrifice as just a noble, sentimental idea. But what if I told you it was a weapon? A strategy so powerful that it determined which of our ancestors survived and which ones vanished forever. This isn't a story about saints or heroes. It's a story about cold, hard survival. Let's travel back in time, tens of thousands of years ago. The world is a brutal place. Early human groups are small, scattered, and constantly on the edge of extinction. Imagine a sudden drought. The rivers dry up, the animals migrate, and the plants wither. An individual hunter, no matter how strong, is helpless, but a group that shares its last remaining food. They might just make it. The ones who are a little stronger can hunt farther, while the ones who are weaker can tend to the camp. This isn't about being nice. It's about keeping the entire group functional. A group where everyone is half-starved is better than a group with a few well-fed members and the rest too weak to move. Think about the constant threat of predators. A lone human is an easy meal for a saber-toothed cat. But a group can post a lookout. One person stays awake, sacrificing their sleep, so that 20 others can rest safely. The one person's sacrifice is the difference between the group waking up the next morning or being wiped out in the night. This became a fundamental rule of survival. The individual's risk protected the group's future. The group that sacrificed survived. The group that didn't disappeared. This principle of sacrifice as a survival tool became deeply embedded in our ancestors' way of life. When early human groups began to grow larger, the environment became even more challenging. Resources were stretched thin, and the risk of disease, famine, or attack was always present. In these harsh conditions, sacrifice wasn't a choice. It was a necessity. It was the glue that held society together when everything else was trying to tear it apart. Consider a harsh winter. The cold is relentless, and food is almost impossible to find. One family manages to hunt a large animal. They could hoard the meat for themselves, ensuring their own survival for a few weeks. But what happens when that meat runs out? They'll be alone, and the rest of their group will be gone. The smarter, more strategic choice was to share. By sharing the meat, they ensured that the entire group stayed strong enough to survive the winter together. When spring came, they would have more hunters, more gatherers, and a better chance of thriving. Sacrifice was an investment in the collective future. This wasn't just about food. It was about everything. When someone was injured or fell ill, the group faced a choice. They could abandon the weak, seeing them as a burden. Many animal species do this. But human groups that chose to protect their sick and injured gained a hidden advantage. An elder who could no longer hunt might hold a memory of where to find water during a drought, or how to treat an infection using a specific plant. A hunter with a broken leg would eventually heal and become a valuable provider again. By protecting the vulnerable, the group preserved its most precious asset, knowledge and experience. Abandoning them meant throwing away a library of survival guides. This created something incredibly powerful: resilience. A group that practiced sacrifice could bounce back from disasters. If a predator attack wiped out a few members, the survivors weren't starting from scratch. They had a social structure that supported them, allowing them to grieve, regroup, and carry on. A group that didn't practice sacrifice would simply splinter and collapse under the same pressure. Sacrifice allowed them to absorb shocks and adapt. It was the ultimate insurance policy against a chaotic world. Furthermore, this behavior fundamentally changed the social dynamics within the group. When individuals knew that others would help them in their time of need, it reduced internal fear and suspicion. Think about it. If you're constantly worried that your neighbor will steal your food or abandon you if you get sick, you waste a tremendous amount of energy on conflict and defense. But if you trust your group, that energy can be redirected outwards, focused on the real threats: the environment, predators, and rival groups. Cooperation flourished. Instead of competing with each other, they started working together on complex tasks. Large-scale hunts, building shelters, defending against common threats. All of this became possible because of the underlying trust built by countless small acts of sacrifice. This wasn't a philosophical debate. It was evolution in action. Natural selection wasn't just favoring the strongest individuals, but the most cooperative groups. Communities that shared, protected each other, and worked together simply outcompeted and outlived those that were driven by pure self. The selfish groups died out, taking their genes with them. The cooperative groups thrived, passing on the behaviors and inclinations that made them successful. Over thousands of generations, This relentless pressure shaped our very psychology. The instincts for empathy, fairness, and altruism aren't just random, pleasant emotions. They are the echoes of a brutal survival strategy. We feel good when we help others because, for our ancestors, that feeling was linked to the survival of their kin and their community. We feel guilt when we act selfishly because that behavior would have endangered the group and, ultimately, ourselves. So, when we look at the world today and see people performing acts of kindness, donating to charity, volunteering their time, or even just helping a stranger, we're not just seeing modern morality at play. We are witnessing a legacy. Sacrifice wasn't a sign of weakness. It was the most effective, most root, and most successful strategy ever devised. It's the reason we are here today. It's what it means to be human. The fourth topic is how sacrifice built trust. Have you ever wondered what holds our world together? It's not laws, it's not money, it's something much deeper, much more ancient. It's trust. It's trust. And the story of how we learned to trust one another is one of the most incredible tales of human evolution. In the vast, wild world of nature, trust is a rarity. Most animals operate on pure instinct, a constant calculation of risk and reward. They don't have the luxury of believing in others. An antelope doesn't trust a lion to be kind. A lone wolf doesn't trust a rival pack to share its territory. Survival is a solo act, a relentless game of self. For millions of years, our own ancestors lived in a similar way. But then, something extraordinary happened. A new behavior emerged that would change the course of our species forever. Sacrifice. Imagine a small group of early humans, huddled together against the biting wind. Food is scarce. One hunter has managed to find a small piece of meat, just enough for himself. But instead of eating it alone, he shares it. He gives up his own immediate survival for the well-being of someone else. This simple act, this sacrifice, sent a message more powerful than any sound or gesture. It said, "You matter to me. Your survival is as important as my own." This was the birth of trust. This revolutionary concept, born from a single act of giving, began to reshape human society from the ground up. Suddenly, life wasn't just a free-for-all anymore. Trust allowed people to rely on each other, to predict each other's actions without constant fear and suspicion. It allowed for specialization. For the first time, one person could risk their life hunting a massive beast, trusting that others were back at the camp, protecting the children and keeping the fire going. Another could spend days gathering plants, trusting that the hunters would return with meat to share. Life transformed from a chaotic scramble into a coordinated dance. This new dynamic of trust and sacrifice also fundamentally changed the nature of leadership. Before, the leader was simply the strongest, the most dominant individual who could take what they wanted through sheer force. But now, a new kind of leader emerged. It was the one who sacrificed the most for the group, the one who took the biggest risks to protect others, the one who shared their food first, the one who stood watch through the longest nights. Loyalty was no longer commanded by fear. It was earned through action. Authority grew not from brute force, but from demonstrated care and responsibility. The best leaders were the best servants of their people. As generations passed, this new social fabric woven from threads of trust became ingrained in our very culture. It became tradition. Children didn't just learn how to hunt or gather, they learned who to rely on. They learned through stories and legends, tales of heroic ancestors who made great sacrifices for the good of the tribe. These weren't just entertaining stories. They were essential lessons in social survival, teaching the next generation the fundamental values that held their world together. The bonds between individuals strengthened, small family groups grew into clans, clans merged into tribes, and eventually, tribes formed the foundations of the first societies. Think about it. Every complex structure we've ever built, from the first humble village to the sprawling megacities of today, rests upon this invisible foundation of trust. Without sacrifice, trust would have remained an alien concept. We would still be isolated individuals, competing for scraps, forever wary of the person standing next to us. Without trust, we could never have formed families, built communities, or created the rich tapestry of cultures that define humanity. The very first time one of our ancestors chose to give instead of take, they did something far more profound than just sharing a meal. They didn't just save a life in that moment. They planted the seed of civilization. They created the invisible glue, the powerful, unspoken bond that connects us all. It's the reason a firefighter runs into a burning building, the reason a parent gives their last piece of food to their child. It's the quiet promise that we are in this together. That first act of sacrifice wasn't just an event in history. It was the spark that ignited the very soul of humanity, a light that continues to guide us and hold us together to this very day. The fifth topic is the legacy of the first sacrifice. Have you ever wondered what makes us human? Is it our brains, our tools, or our language? Maybe it's something deeper, something that began long before recorded history. Let's travel back in time, to a world where survival was a daily struggle. Imagine a small group of early humans, huddled together, facing a harsh, unforgiving environment. Food is scarce, predators are everywhere, and every day could be their last. In this brutal world, a single act changed everything. It wasn't a discovery or an invention. It was a choice. One of them, facing a moment of crisis, decided to give up their own share of food, their own safety, for the sake of another. This was the first sacrifice. It was an incredibly risky move, going against every instinct for self-preservation. But it worked. The group, because of that single act, became a little stronger, a little more likely to see another sunrise. This first sacrifice didn't just end there in the ancient dust. It became a powerful pattern, a blueprint for survival that was repeated, refined, and passed down through countless generations. What started as a desperate gamble slowly evolved into a defining human characteristic. It began to shape not just how we lived, but how we thought, how we felt, and how we related to one another. Sacrifice wasn't just about survival anymore. It was becoming the very foundation of society. This new way of thinking spread like wildfire. It became the glue that held families together. Think about it. Parents giving up their own food, their sleep, their safety, all for their children. Elders, instead of hoarding their hard-won knowledge, shared it freely with the young, ensuring the group's wisdom would outlive them. Hunters, who faced the greatest dangers, would risk their lives, not just for themselves, but so that everyone back at the camp could eat. These weren't laws written on stone tablets. There were no rule books or commandments. These were lessons learned in the harshest classroom of all, survival. They saw that when one person sacrificed, the entire group benefited. They learned that my survival depends on your survival, and your survival depends on mine. This idea, this practice of mutual support, became our greatest competitive advantage. As human groups grew larger and more complex, evolving from small bands into tribes, and eventually into civilizations, the nature of sacrifice changed with them. It took on new, more organized forms. People started giving up their personal labor, working together to build walls for shared protection, or to dig irrigation canals for a communal food supply. Individuals began to accept rules and social contracts that limited their personal freedom. Why? In exchange for stability, for order, for the security that comes from knowing you're part of something larger and stronger than yourself. The concept of the common good started to take shape. This led to the rise of specialized roles built on sacrifice. Soldiers emerged, individuals willing to risk their lives not for personal gain, but for the defense of their entire community. Leaders were no longer just the strongest or the most aggressive. True leadership became associated with service. The best leaders were expected to serve their people, to sacrifice their own interests for the well-being of the collective, before they could expect to rule. And if you look closely, you'll see that this ancient pattern, born from a single act of desperation, is still very much alive today. It's woven into the very fabric of our modern world. We sacrifice our time to get an education, hoping for a better future. We sacrifice our immediate comfort for long-term progress. Whether it's through grueling work or challenging scientific research, we constantly balance our individual desires against the need for collective safety, following traffic laws, paying taxes, and participating in our communities. Every single system we rely on, from the intimacy of our families to the vast complexity of nations, exists because people continue this ancient tradition. They continue to give something of themselves up for the benefit of others. Doctors and nurses work long hours, sacrificing their own well-being for their patients. Teachers dedicate their lives to empowering the next generation. Firefighters run into burning buildings when everyone else is running out. This enduring legacy of sacrifice is the secret to our species' incredible success. It explains why we, Homo sapiens, thrived while other hominins faded into extinction. We didn't survive simply because we were the strongest, the fastest, or even the smartest in a purely individual sense. We survived because we learned a profound truth. Survival is shared. We are, at our core, a cooperative species. The strength of the wolf is the pack, and the strength of the pack is the wolf. We are the same. Our individual strength is amplified immeasurably by our connection to the group, and that connection is forged in the fire of mutual sacrifice. That very first sacrifice, that moment one of our ancestors chose us over me, didn't just save a life. It created humanity as we know it. It set us on a path that would lead to cities, to art, to science, to everything we hold dear. And every time we choose to help a neighbor, to support a friend, to put the needs of our family or our community before our own, we are echoing that ancient, world-changing decision. We are honoring the legacy that has kept our species alive and allowed us to flourish against all odds. So the next time you wonder what makes us special, remember that act. Remember that our greatest strength isn't found in our hands or our minds, but in our hearts, in our capacity to give, to share, and to sacrifice for one another. That is our true inheritance. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more explorations into what makes us who we are. See you next time.